It's been a while since we've done one of these, but I felt like just the right time for a Wolves Wednesday as we are officially out of the All-Star Classic break and now into the second half of the season. We're now naked with the dark jerseys at home instead of the whites. And I got a very, very special guest, as it was a surprise guest for this episode. So stick around as I'll talk to Spiros Anastas here in a second on a Wednesday edition of Locked on Hurricanes.
You're Locked on Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to a Wednesday edition of Locked on Hurricanes, your team every day, part of the Locked on Podcast Network. Thank you to the Everydayer for making this your first listen of the day. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, talking about everything but your Carolina Hurricanes and occasionally your Chicago Wolves. I'm your host, Zach Martin, the credentialed Carolina Hurricanes beat writer over the Hawkeyes. Also do some AHL content for the Calder Times. Also the host of the Search Cast, which is a weekly Carolina Hurricanes podcast, along with all my duties here at Locked on Hurricanes. But let's be honest, you're not here for me. You're here for both two of my special guests, but one of them today was a very special surprise. I'm super excited to have him on. He's the assistant coach for the Chicago Wolves, but before that, stops at Lebanon Valley College for his alma mater, South Korea, as well Estonia, along with China, Serbia. Now is the head coach of Greece at the Latin Cup. He's been there and done that and so much more. I am super excited to have Spiros Anastas here with me on a Wolves Wednesday. Spiros, how are you doing today?
Well, Zach, I don't mean to put you on the spot here, but we rehearsed it, and it's Spiros, so.
Spiros, I know, I'm sorry. I know, it's not Spyro. It's not the game. I know, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It happens a lot. But thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here, and I appreciate the little rundown of my resume there because I've been fortunate to have a lot of good experiences in my career. So, yeah, I'm excited to talk about them.
Yeah, no, for sure, definitely. Yeah. For those who, like I said, that was a quick gloss over. If anyone wants to check out his full resume of his playing career and what he's been doing as a head coach, assistant coach, pro scout, anything you can name it, definitely check out Elite Prospects. It is a who's who of locations, places, and to be at. And I want to get your thoughts on that too. Like, what about going to, playing, coaching at your alma mater as assistant coach, and then, going to the AHL with Grand Rapids, and then, now you got stops in, Serbia and Estonia and China and South Korea. Like, what's all of that been like? It's kind of like leading to where you're at now, now being the head coach of Greece for the Latin Cup and also the assistant coach for the Wolves. Like, what's that journey been like, just being to all these different places to where you're at now? Yeah,
the international stuff's been a lot of fun. And, none of them have been full-time positions. They've been part-time. So I've been fortunate that, when it worked out with my schedules, that mainly the University of Lethbridge and the Winnipeg Jets, when I was scouting with their American League franchise, would allow me to take time to go get that coaching experience. But it's been some of the best experiences of my life, and it really has stretched me as a coach and as a person. And it really forces you to work on communication skills and your understanding and how to treat and teach different individuals. Because you're dealing with people that don't only just not speak your language, but they've had a completely different kind of hockey upbringing than, the typical player that I'm used to coaching. So I think it's just added a lot more tools to my toolkit and has made me a better coach and person. In terms of the opportunity, I worked with Jim Pack in Grand Rapids. So when I left for the University of Lethbridge, it was the same year he left for South Korea to kind of the 4-year project in bringing the Olympics in 2018. And at my wedding, actually, that summer, he asked what my availability would be like. And in Canadian University, if you win the whole thing, you're done like second week of March. And I knew we weren't going to get that far with a rebuilding program. So I said, probably mid to end of February, I'd be available. And so it worked out. He named me the head coach of their U18 team and assistant alongside Richard Park, another NHL alumni, for the men's team. And then it kind of snowballed from there. I unfortunately wasn't able to see through the whole 4-year project because my wife and I started having children. It was hard to be away for that long. But when you're in those tournaments, in the subdivisions especially, you just meet a lot of the delegates from all the different nations. I had won a gold medal with the U18 in Division 2A in Estonia. So I met their president and their delegates. So when they found out I was available, they gave me a little bit of a lighter schedule on a part-time basis that my wife and I were able to swing. And then when I got the pro coaching, obviously it took a pause on the international side. But then during COVID, when I started scouting, the opportunity arose again. So same kind of thing, though, just through mutual contacts, through the international coaching I had done. I had connected with Serbia and eventually China. The Greek thing is a little bit unique in comparison to the others because I'm of Greek descent. And, they sought me out as well, but it was a little bit more of a natural fit. Although Serbians and Greeks are very closely linked in heritage, but the Greek thing was a little bit more directed towards getting a Greek coach behind the bench. And they're not in IHF sanctioned tournaments yet. They have been in the past, but currently they're just associate members because they're a full-sized playing rink in the country. So they play in a lot of non-sanctioned events like the Latam Cup and the Challenger Series against other nations that are in the same boat. So some of the best experiences of my life, and I think it's definitely made me a better coach for the job I'm in now with the Chicago Wolves.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I do want to ask you about that too. It's like, what's that like? With the fact that you have the dual citizenship with Greece and Canada. Like, what's that been like to be able to take like all of that what you've learned and put it back to a country like Greece? Like you said, it's not really in the IAHF yet, which is hopefully the plans for them because it's great to have a bunch of different countries in. But like, what's that been like for you? Just being able to kind of tap into your roots of heritage of your family and stuff like that, and trying to bring hockey in a sense of a bigger thing in a country like Greece that maybe it's not there yet, but hopefully the trend is at some point.
Yeah. So the real cool thing about it is they were at IHF level competition from like 98 or earlier, but 98 to 2013 when they had an ice rink in the country, and they were low level. They were like Division 3B or whatever it is. That's 7 or 6 levels down from the championship that we know, the World Championships. But it was a sport that was growing, and kudos to the people that were running it back then. They did a really great job with limited numbers and limited resources. And I always kind of aspired to play there. The only thing is IHF eligibility. You have to play 2 seasons domestically, and through AAA hockey, junior hockey, college hockey, I wasn't going to take away from that. And then unfortunately, by the time I graduated, where I could have spent a couple summers playing in the Greek domestic league, at that point they had lost their arena and eventually were no longer full members of the IHF. So to bring it back and to be part of the drive to reconnect the old national team players to the heritage team that we have going now with the non-sanctioned events in North America, it's been really cool. And there's a long way to go trying to raise funds, but we've gotten some kind of acknowledgement from some NHL alumni who are of Greek descent. They've sent their support and videos supporting our guys, and it's just one step at a time. So it's just really cool. Anytime you can play in any event, whether it's a sanctioned IHF event or another one against other countries, when you see the flags flying and the anthem playing, it's really special, especially since my Greek heritage means so much to me, being the first person in my family born in Canada. So it's something I love to do, and I'm happy that we can try and get it off the ground here in the next few years.
No, that's awesome, and I really hope it does work out. And if however we can help out, that would be fantastic. Because I love to be able to just see another country like Greece get back to where it was before in a good way like that. So that's awesome. So I do want to ask you about the Wolves because I know everyone's like, because we had Cam Abbott on a few weeks back, and funny enough, Cam's like, okay, you have to get Spiros and everyone else on. So it's like, I'm like, all right, I'll keep that in mind. And then I talked to Andrew Rinaldi, who I work with at the Calder Times, and he said he talked to you recently as well. And he's like, you have to get this guy on. I'm like, well, the head coach says it and the beat writer says it. I mean, at this point, it makes sense. So I want to get your thoughts on the Wolves so far. I know it was like a slower start to the season, but you guys have really been coming on as of late. 7-3 in your last 10. I know you guys had a little bit of a split with the Bakersfield Condors. What has this season been like for you for your first year with the Wolves and being under Cam Abbott and just seeing that transition from with the youth movement this team is on right now to where they're at in the top 4 in the Central, and a pretty good chunk of a lead over the Rockford IceHawks who are in 5th.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. I mean, there was a learning curve for all of us. Everything was brand new here, brand new staff. None of us had worked together before. Obviously brand new players with the reaffiliation, a lot of rookies, a lot of first-time North American or players playing in North America. So this start actually wasn't surprising to me. When I talked to Andrew Rinaldi, I referenced an article that the Wolves did on their site with Chris Cook back on September 18th. And a question of how I kind of forecasted or saw the season going was asked of me. And I said, there's going to be some growing pains, with the first-year players and first-time in North America players and our first time together. There's going to be some times where we're going to be really focused on habits, and the results aren't going to be what kind of dictates our process. But I felt and I truly believed in, and I know now that we had enough skill that by Christmas, once our habits were in line, our skill would start to rear its head and we'd be a dangerous competitor in the division. And, we're sitting fourth now in striking distance of first place. From us to Milwaukee to Texas to Grand Rapids, it's a weekend difference, right? We have a 3-3 this weekend. You get 6 points on that weekend, someone drops 4, then all of a sudden you're right there. So it's really exciting where we've been. Did I predict that we'd be here? Probably not. I think we're exceeding expectations in a lot of people's eyes. I think that a lot of people thought we're going to be young and not very physical and not being able to compile win after win. And we finally got there once we kind of hit November. So it was really exciting for us. But it was that kind of diligent focus on habits and building a culture within our room where we really cared about each other and cared about everyone else's development and recognized the impact that we have on each other. And that's not an easy thing to do with young players, but it's something that we really talked about a lot in the summer and knew that it was going to be our number one focus above wins and losses early in the season. So, and I think it's starting to kind of materialize for us and we're really excited about it.
All right, we will jump back into the rest of the conversation with Spiros here in a second on a Wednesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Looking to optimize your nutrition this year? Factor makes eating well easy with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved meals that are fresh, never frozen, and ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes. With 40 options across 8 dietary preferences every week, you can customize your meals to fit your lifestyle, whether it's calorie smart, protein plus, or keto. Plus, Factor even offers wholesome smoothies, breakfast, and grab-and-go snacks to keep you fueled all day long. I love how Factor takes the stress out of meal planning, and for me, I actually got the Protein Plus meal recently, and the flavor was absolutely amazing. I had the queso fundido in ground beef, just recently, and it even came with cilantro cauliflower rice and roasted peppers. And guys, let me tell you, it's actually really easy to make. Let's say you don't have a microwave or you prefer to make your food in the oven. Super easy as well. 365 degrees for 12 minutes. Put it in a glass pan or glass bowl, and you're good to go. It's warmed up. It may take a little bit longer than 2 minutes, but if you prefer to do it that way, that's a good option as well. The food was super amazing. I felt really great after eating it. Portion size was amazing. The taste was great. I would definitely want to have more Factor meals. Like, I know I got a lot more to try out, and I'm just super excited about it. So Factor is something that's really, 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 really good. And the convenience is unbeatable. No prep, no mess, just great food in minutes. Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/LockedOnAHL50 off and use code LockedOnAHL50 off to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code LockedOnNHL50 off at factormeals.com/LockedOnNHL50 off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. No, for sure. And you're talking about the guy, everyone trying, lining up and, the youth movement and everyone just kind of clicking at the right time. And, we had, the Wolves were supposed to have 2 guys at the All-Star Classic. One of them did get called up at the last second, Scott Morrow. But, What's it been like watching him and Ryan Suzuki kind of be one of the driving forces of the season, and even Bradley Nadeau as well? Like it seems like those three have been a real big force for the Wolves this season.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll take them off one at a time. I'll start with the youngest in Brad Nadeau. I mean, he's got an NHL level shot and just exceptional velocity coming off his stick, and his ability to pick corners or put pucks under bars is really impressive. But the big thing was getting him comfortable and finding that wheelhouse for him and expanding that wheelhouse. Not every puck's going to be right between the legs. So being able to shoot off a back leg or one that's extended too far in front, when your time and space is being closed a lot faster than it was when he was at the University of Maine. So it took him some time. And I think the World Juniors was really good for him. We all know Canada didn't succeed as much as that nation would have liked and their fans, but it was an opportunity for him to shoot as many pucks as he could, be the number one option. And then since he's been back, he's been on an unreal tear. So we're really happy for him. But, what he's really learned is how to get himself in those positions. His first three steps have improved. His tracking has improved. So connecting the ability to get the puck back to the time where the puck gets on his stick for a shot has been a real key for his step. Because it's easy to just say, well, I got to stand here and shoot pucks, but how do we get it there? Mm-hmm. And I think he's been real focused on his tracking and his defensive side of the puck as well. With Zooks, I mean, the biggest thing for him has just been his health. You talk to him, you get to know him. He's had quite a journey to be here. And that mixed with a little bit of uncertainty last year, not being under a true affiliate. Mm-hmm. When you have major injuries, like ones to your eye and to your back, and then every other just natural issue that pops up through a pro playing career. It's been really tough. So I think his health has been paramount for us and for him this year. His confidence has grown, and I think he really likes the players that he's playing with, and that helps. And now he's, rather than the young guy that's always looking up to someone, with our youth movement, he's actually become one of our older guys in terms of game experience and pro experience. So I think he's taken on that role well, and he's, through having to be an example for guys, it's really elevated his game. And lastly, Scotty Morrow, the person that I probably work out of the three, work most intimately with because I run the D. He's been an amazing player to work with. His thirst for knowledge of the game and his attention to detail in terms of watching his clips, his shifts, sitting down with individual meetings or our D group meetings. He's a sponge, but not one that just kind of sits and soaks it up. When you squeeze a sponge, a little bit of juice comes out of it, and there's a lot of that coming out of him because he wants to share his thoughts and what he's thinking in certain aspects of the game because that information helps me help him.
Right.
And everyone will look at the points. Everybody will look at his OT winners and his power play goals and his goals where he activates and he undresses a couple D-men and the goalie. Mm-hmm. But what I'm most proud of Scotty for is his improvement in being first to pucks on retrievals, his ability to close a lot faster than he did earlier in the season in the D zone, and his gaps. There's still work to be done, and he knows that. But his improvement in those three areas are for me on a day-to-day basis way more impressive than the points he's put up. And if anything, that improvement in those areas has allowed him to put up more points. And his willingness to change some of his style in those areas has been exceptional. So love working with him personally, and just a really good teammate overall as well.
No, that's awesome. Yeah. And from what, just from watching how you have been, just coaching the defense, a lot of guys, you got the younger guys, even some of the, Joachim Ryans and the, depending on who's there, maybe like a Riley Stillman's going to be there or it's whoever, because with all the call-ups and stuff like that. So, yeah, the defense has been really locked in, and it's just great to see, like what you've been putting in to these guys and then them kind of working it back out themselves, too. It's really fun to see. So, one last question before we let you go. Who would you say on the team is maybe the underrated guy, the one that's maybe not getting sung about enough? Who should be like, hey, we have all these other guys who are playing real level. Who's this one guy that maybe is like, maybe needs to get a little bit more of a shine on just how he's been this year? That, not talking about stats, but just his overall play with the Wolves.
Well, So, I mean, earlier in the year, if I were to I'll give you one per position.
Okay.
Forwards and defense. Earlier in the year, I would have said Juha Jaska, and I think it would have been unanimous in our coach's office. And thankfully, he's gotten that opportunity. He's proven he can play at the NHL level, and he can even produce a little bit in limited minutes. He's heavy. He's got good details. He's a pro. He's a little bit older, more mature, and he just does a lot of things the right way. And he's flexible and versatile. He can be a good fourth line center or winger, but he also can fill in top 6 minutes. So we're really happy. That's an easy answer for me because it's already happened. We're happy that he's got that opportunity and shown it. On the D side, which obviously I work with, on a daily basis, for me, it's Dominic Fensori. He is everything that you want in a defenseman. And there's no secret. He lacks the one thing, which is size. But from my perspective, you don't know until you know. So I would love to see him get an opportunity because I don't think that I've coached a more fearless and more dedicated player to the way things need to be done than Dom Fensori. And he plays between 22 and 25 minutes a game. He's matched up against our top lines. He can play a defensive role, which he was paired with Charles Legault earlier in the year. Yeah. And he really thrived in that area, playing against other teams' top lines. More recently, he's played with Scott Morrow, and both of them have just exploded offensively. So he can do it all. He kills, he power plays, and he's just an extreme competitor that just loves to learn and keep getting better. So I would love for him to get an opportunity. It would mean a lot to him and to pretty much every guy in that room as well, including me.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, I know I've talked to a lot of people who kind of, do a little bit more of the prospect stuff more than I do, which I wish I do a little bit more of, but it's just kind of tough trying to bounce around. So I've talked to a lot of people who've watched the Wolves a little bit more than I do, and they always talk about how Don Fensori is one of those guys where it's like, give him a shot. He might surprise a lot of people. So definitely agree with you on that for sure. But Spiros, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. Sorry for butchering your name at the beginning. My brain was like, okay, we're going to just change what we just talked about. So I do apologize for that. But before I let you go, where can people find you if you are on social media? I know you kind of are, but I don't know how active you are. And then where can people go if they want to help, donate to help you guys out over there at Greece and, with the hockey team and stuff like that. So the floor is yours, sir.
Oh, okay. Well, on social, I don't do too much other than on X. I don't do too much other than retweet what the Wolves post or the Carolina Hurricanes post. So, right. Spiros _Anastas in both X and Instagram. Instagram, you might get the odd picture of my wife and kids, but it's not anything very exciting. So, I don't know if I'm a hot follow in that end of things. In terms of the Greeks, same thing on socials. It's just if you look up Greek ice hockey, you should find it, and they do a good job on Instagram specifically on kind of sharing their journey and some of their efforts and the tournaments they play in, and some of the fundraising efforts as well. There's two different accounts. There's one that's the Heritage Team, which is the non-sanctioned tournaments that happen in North America, and then there's one that's run by all the old-time Greek national players. And they're the ones that lived it back in the day, and they want to see it return. They both do a lot of work for Greek hockey, and all you got to do is just type in Greek ice hockey on Instagram, and they'll pop up. I don't even know the handle, but there isn't too much Greek ice hockey going on, so it won't be hard to find. But there's always, selling merchandise or donations or information there. It's like we said, a long way to go, but every bit helps, and I appreciate you allowing me to have that plug.
Yeah, no, of course, definitely. Yeah, I mean, hey, they say hockey's for everyone, and I'd love to see more, nations kind of get into that, back into the IHF, and just continue to grow the amazing game that is hockey. So, definitely for sure, any way to help would be great. So, yeah, guys, make sure to go do that if you can. Go check that out and help any way you can. But Spiros, thank you so much. I really enjoyed our conversation today, and hopefully we can see a lot more wins and get a nice Calder Cup run for you guys this off season. But yeah, just thank you, and hope you have a great rest of your day. And like I said, thank you so much for jumping on. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Zach, and I'm hoping and knowing a lot more wins will come for not just the Wolves but the Canes. We're hoping for both teams to make it as deep as we can. So we'll do our best.
Hey, no, for sure. Hey, nothing wrong with a Stanley Cup and a Calder Cup this summer for both teams. That would be fantastic for sure.
Awesome. Thanks, Zach. Thanks for having me, man.
All right, big thank you to Spiros for coming on. And before we jump into the Andrew Rinaldi part of the show, we're going to take one more quick break, and we'll be back to talk to Andrew here in a second on a Wednesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help you feeling better, fuller, longer. Get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Wolves Wednesdays, always happy to have him on. Of course, I work with this gentleman over at the Calder Times, and he's the Chicago Wolves / Grand Rapids beat writer. But obviously, we're talking about the former rather than the latter. It is Andrew Rinaldi. Andrew, how are you doing tonight, brother?
Always doing good when I'm on here. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course. I mean, whenever I get a chance to get around these Wolves Wednesdays, I'm like, you know what? I gotta call Andrew. I just gotta be like, hey, what are you doing? Let's talk about some Wolves, because you're on a little bit more than I am. I try to keep up as much with as I can, but since you're the beat writer over at our, very fun AHL site, gotta talk to the source. And speaking of Spiros, I don't know if you guys have read his article that Andrew did. It's a 2-parter, but Andrew, I have to say, very nicely done there, sir. A very must read, in my opinion.
I barely did anything. Spiros did all the content delivering that way more than I could even hope for. No, we had a fantastic chat, and I'm real glad he let me kind of pick his brain a little bit. Well, again, he more opened himself up to just kind of the inner workings of the team and everything, and so I'm forever grateful to Coach Anastas to let me in that capacity.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, even when I had him on earlier on the show, just talk about his journey from playing D3 college to coaching his alma mater. Of course, as you know, Andrew, Estonia and South Korea and Greece and all that. Yeah, just for the fact of he's been there and done that for so long now, to where he's at coaching this defense for the Chicago Wolves. I mean, when you get guys like Scott Morrow, Dominic Fensore, and Stillman, and we can go through the entire list of just the who's of that defense, because they've been playing really solidly for Chicago Wolves. And I mean, we got to talk about Scotty Morrow. I know he missed the All-Star Classic. I know a lot of people were kind of not really happy about that, which is understandable because it's like right before. It is what it is. But I want to get your thoughts on him, because you've been watching him a little bit closer than I have. I mean, I try to keep up with highlights, but you've got basically got your finger on the pulse of that. What is about Scotty Morrow? Of course, we've seen in Carolina, but what makes him so dynamic for the Chicago Wolves team this season?
It's just he's got a next level way of just he's so smart. His IQ is, he knows exactly where to put himself, where to put the puck. And, he made the All-Star team because he puts up a bunch of points. And we can talk about the points, and it's easy talking, easy talking points, no pun intended there. But
pretty much low-hanging fruit when it comes to conversations. Oh, his points are amazing.
Yeah. But as Coach Spiros kind of pointed out, it's been his improvement away from the puck that's really kind of allowed him to be just this absolute workhorse for the Wolves, to lead in all special teams kind of situations, to be a minute muncher 5-on-5. And, he's not shying away from the board battles. He's getting in there, being the first one to the puck. His gap control has been really impressive. And, this, because again, we all know that he can put the points up, and he's, he showed to be a force there. Yeah. But being able to be as responsible defensively as he is offensively, I think has really kind of added an extra fold to his game. And I mean, he was well rewarded with that, with the call up to Carolina.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, we've already seen it now. Well, it's like, well, he hasn't recorded a point yet this season in the couple games that he was in, but you can definitely tell he can just plug and play. And like the good thing that I know we've talked about in the past, you're going from a system that's basically the Carolinas. It's just now you got the AHL level with Cam Abbott and them basically running the same way. So it's like a nice seamless transition for guys, especially with on the defense side of things, as we both know. It's hard to kind of adjust for the defense when you're going from the AHL to the NHL in terms of systems and stuff like that. But so the other all-star for the Chicago Wolves who actually did play, and he did pretty well, all things considered. Really showed out in the skills competition. Got a few assists in the round robin championship. I mean, heck, I know we said on Taps, the AHL pre-show, they're like, hey, watch out for the Central. And yeah, I think the Central kind of did what we thought they were going to do. But in Ryan Suzuki, I mean, we've talked about it numerous times over the last couple of years. Of just like, if this guy stays healthy and just gets put in the right system and not stuck in Springfield somewhere, he's going to pop off. And Ryan Suzuki, man, I mean, just what has it been like watching him actually get a full season in and show what made him be a first rounder for the Hurricanes?
It feels very vindicating for me after I've been pumping his tires for years, and now it feels like he's he's been healthy. He's playing confidently. I mean, just the perfect plug between Bradley Nadeau and Juha Jaska when he was down there with Chicago.
Yeah.
They were dominant at even strength, and it was a lot of fun to watch. And for him to overcome injuries and affiliation chaos and every other obstacle that's been put in his way to finally be the last player in the first round of his draft class to make his NHL debut and to make the AHL All-Star game. I love seeing it. I was worried that maybe the ship had kind of sailed on him for his future here in Carolina. And even though it might be a little muddier, the fact that he's played himself into contention for, future looks and everything has really made me, just proud to see this kid stick to his game, don't get discouraged. And, you're seeing the fruits of his labors in Chicago come to fruition.
Yeah, no, 100%. Especially when you talk about a guy even, missing some games, 33 points in 40 games. Yeah, obviously 20 of them are assists, but when you're finally getting the opportunity, he's really showing out for that as well. And you mentioned a couple other guys too on that line, and we got to talk about him. Bradley Nadeau, first year, his first full season pro. Even talked to Spiros about it, and he's like, "Yeah, that dude's got a next level AHL shot." Which, I mean, yeah, we all kind of were like, "It's pretty elite already as it is," and this kid's not even like in his early 20s at this point, which is crazy. And then Juha Jaska, I mean, of course, he's been in Carolina for the last, I would say, few weeks now. And you can definitely tell that he is that sandpaper finish, the guy that really fits into whatever system he's in with the organization. What is it about Nadeau and then also Jaska for them to, bring their own style to, the Chicago Wolves, and why it's translating, at least for right now in Carolina, or at least on the Jaska side, which eventually we'll see Bradley Nadeau for sure. But what about them makes them so dynamic?
Yeah, I think, for Nadeau, it begins and ends with his shot. He's already at 19 years old, has an NHL release, and
which is just insane to think about.
Yeah, and you're watching it just absolutely overpower a lot of these goalies here in this league. And it's no joke. These goalies in the American League are absolutely no joke, and Nadeau's making it almost kind of look a little easy. He's got 9 goals in his last 10 games. So after he came back from the World Juniors, he's just been on fire, and it hasn't really stopped for him. And then, Carolina fans have seen kind of what Jaska brings to the table, and he was just that perfect fit in with Suzuki and Nadeau. It took him a little bit to get going in Chicago, but once his wheels were turning, it was just every shift. It was, he was making something happen with the puck, without the puck. And, that kind of responsibility in all 3 zones was what led him to being called up to Carolina. We're happy to have him back in Chicago during the Four Nations break.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to see the benefits for everyone on the roster, really.
Yeah, no, 100%. When you get a guy like him back, and you could probably slot him back on that top line with those two. Yeah, you can definitely see where the magic is. And that's something that's crazy, too, when you look at it, because I know we all know that slower-ish start to the season. And even Spiros talking about it, too, where it's like he kind of knew with, it was going to be some growing pains. I mean, reaffiliation, a bunch of these guys are going to be in their first year pro. So it's going to be a lot of, learning curve. But now they're 10 points ahead of fifth place in Rockford, and now they're sitting in fourth. And, if they go and get 4 to 6 points this weekend and get some help from other teams, there's the legitimate shot that they could be, reaching for second, maybe first in the Central. What about this team under Cam Abbott the first year, and of course with Spiros and all of them? Like, what's that been like, just being able to watch this team grow from, okay, we're having to try to figure out the growing pains, figure out how to work together as a group for the first time ever as a unit, to now being like, okay, these guys are within striking distance of first. They are on pace right now to have no issues making the Calder Cup playoffs with, being 10 points clear of fifth. Like, what's that been like, seeing that transition with basically a bunch of first-year guys together?
Validating again, because I felt like you could see the processes, or even during those struggles in October.
Yeah.
Like they have the puck the whole game, but a couple breakdowns going the other way, some trouble finishing, and they lose 3-2. And it's like, okay, you're not getting the points in the standings, but they're going to come. And I compared it.
That's safe to say, yeah.
Compared it to last year's Griffins team, where they had a slow start.
Mm-hmm.
And then around Christmas time, they finally kind of gelled in with the coaching staff and as a unit, and then just bang, they turned it on, and they never really looked back. And this Wolves team has very much kind of the same vibe, except they started hitting their stride even earlier back in November. So
yeah,
it's you're watching these guys, and you're right. There was a lot of first year players here, but I mean they're Morrow and Nadeau, they're well beyond their years, and you're seeing them kind of mature as the season goes on. You're seeing a lot of these other guys kind of also get comfortable into their roles and become more consistent contributors. And so, there's still almost 30 games left in the season. We still have a couple of months here before we can think about, the final seeding. But
right,
they're 5 points out of first. Grand Rapids is an absolute free fall right now, and you get hot, and anything can really happen. So I don't think this team's going to get the head of themselves. They're going to take this one game at a time. And
for
we'll
sure.
See.
Yeah, no, yeah, especially with the coaching staff they have. Yeah, I can definitely see them being like, okay, hey, we got a long way to go. This thing's long from over. So a couple questions before we let you go, because I know it's there's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of games still going on, but we talked about Nadeau, we talked about Morrow and Suzuki and Yaska and all of them, but like, who would you say is the? And I did ask Spiros this. I want to get your opinion on this. Who would you say is the Wolf that's kind of being underrated, the under the radar type guy, one that fans should definitely, maybe aren't like season ticket holders or like, full blown like diehards for the Wolves, but like, who should fans be keeping an eye on for one of those guys that definitely should be getting his flowers, a little bit of a more shine on the, hey, pay attention to this guy?
Nikita Pavlichev was one of those guys who, when you had Yaska called up and some other opportunities opened in the lineup, he was the guy who moved up and absolutely took advantage of an increased role, penalty kill, power play. This guy's 6'7" before he even straps his skates on, so he's just an absolute redwood in front of the net. Causing chaos, screens, getting tips in, and being able to contribute offensively, just a menace on the forecheck. And he could. I don't know how Carolina sees his future going forward, but I mean, I've really been impressed with the way he's been able to play, and I seriously wouldn't be surprised if he were to end up with a Hurricane contract by the time it's all said and done, because he's fit in very, very well with how this Wolves lineup has been shaking up. He's only on a AHL deal at the moment, so he's not like a long shot Hurricanes prospect for right now, but
right, yeah,
I've been very impressed with the way he's played, with the intensity he's brought it every night, and just his he's got a unique skill set that has made him very impactful at this level. And if the coaching staff continue to see that press, I think it's going to be very lucrative for Pavlichev.
Yeah, no, 100% for sure. And so one last question before we let you go, Andrew. So, big weekend coming up. Like I said, they got 3 games in 3 days. They're within striking distance of Grand Rapids. How are you feeling about the Wolves going into this weekend? And like, do we see 2? Do we see the 3 wins? And do we see them kind of being like basically knocking on the door for first place in the Central coming out of the weekend that's coming up?
I think they're going to continue to take some steps forward. They might, I wouldn't be surprised to see them end up in third or something like that. But they do also have Cleveland coming into town, who is a team that sports just a ton of firepower. Between Wolves fans are very familiar with Rocco Grimaldi, but then you also have Luca Del Bel Beluz and Trey Fix-Wolansky, and it's going to be a handful for these guys. Now, it's it's also a difficult time in this league when you have to play 3 games in 3 days. So you might drop one of those in there. 6 points is always like that. It's a tall ask. This team's done it before, but we'll kind of wait and see. But again, I think they're going to continue their forward trajectory, and it presents a good challenge for them as well. And I'd like to see, because I think you're gonna see a bunch of teams around this league do the same thing that Carolina did. Okay, we got a couple of weeks off. Let's get some of the younger guys that we had up in here down and get them keep playing in the American League. So I think they got Rockford coming up. So Artem Levshunov, who was up in Chicago, is probably heading down to the Ice Hogs. Yeah. Just another, just number 2 overall pick last summer, not a big deal. So it's going to present challenges, and this team has shown the ability to rise to the occasion, and to whenever someone throws a right hook, they know how to throw one right back. So I'm just excited to see how this team continues to grow and continues to rise to the occasion.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. Hey, I mean, I know how much Manitoba knows that Chicago's not afraid to throw some right hooks. If anyone's not seen that yet, I would highly recommend going to Andrew's X Twitter account to look up that nice little brouhaha that, for whatever reason, always is between these 2 teams, and it involves a Wolves goalie getting ejected. So I would highly recommend checking that out. But Andrew, thank you so much as always for jumping on. It's always great talking to you about Chicago Wolves or just AHL in general, because I mean, we're both hockey nerds, and why not, right? But where can people find you, and of course, where can they find your amazing work?
Absolutely. So, we both cover our teams over at the Calder Times. Mm-hmm. That's where you can find my written work, and, for a little bit of extra content, for those who I'm not going to call it X. I'm going to keep calling it Twitter. And it's for those who see me on the screen, you can see my little handle down that way. For those listening, that's at Andrew_Rinaldi_. I give updates on the team. I live tweet during the games. I like to interact with the fans as well. If you guys ever have any questions, anything that you observe, you guys want to chirp me, I'm always available for as long as within reason. So it's
just send a Pierre Kachekov face reaction picture, and you're pretty much good.
Yeah, unless I'm not. But yeah, it's like I said, it's always great to interact with the fans. It's it reminds myself that this is why I'm doing what I do, and I want to bring the team to the people. So yeah, you guys can find me there, and I hope I keep bringing the content that the people want.
I mean, not being biased here, but I think you do. So
I think you're being biased.
What kind of say?
Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Hey, if
Okay.
no one, hey, say someone always has to have your back. So if you need the homies, someone's got to do it. So, but
appreciate it.
Yeah, but guys, this was a fantastic Wolves Wednesday. Big thank you to Spiros from coming on earlier. Also, big shout out to Andrew Rinaldi as always. I mean, always a great time having him on. And thank you for making this your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out Locked On Fantasy Hockey, become an expert, and get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from Steal and Flip. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you want to keep up with me, I'm at OneTrueZach on X. The podcast is LO_Hurricanes. I'm also on Blue Sky at the Zachary Mern. I do have link trees in both of my bars, where you can check out all my articles at the Hockey Writers or the HockeyWriters.com, covering everything about your Carolina Hurricanes with a mixture of some Chicago Wolves stuff in there. But if you want to check out my other AHL content, well, I'm over at the Calder Times or the CalderTimes.com, covering the Providence Bruins. I'm also the host of the Surgecast, and make sure to check that out on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. For this show, well, it's Locked On Hurricanes on Google, Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio. Just follow, subscribe, leave a 5-star rating and review, because I might just read it on the show. YouTube, Locked On Hurricanes. Subscribe. Hit the bell notifications so you don't miss the show. Hit the thumbs up to let me know if you like the show as well. Share it with all of their Caniacs to become everydayers just like you. Hope everyone enjoyed this Wolves Wednesday edition of the podcast. Hope everyone enjoys their Wednesday and enjoy the first day of the Four Nations face-off. And until next time, as always, let's go Canes and let's go Wolves.